You didn't find this message by accident. It came to you on a quiet wind, in the stillness of a moment you couldn't quite name but deeply felt. There's a reason this found you now, right here in the middle of your waiting. You've carried questions, haven't you? Quiet ones, heavy ones, about why life has looked the way it has, about the ache you can't explain, about the sense that you were always meant for more, even when no one else could see it. Maybe you've tried to silence that feeling, telling yourself you're too late to start over spiritually. But it doesn't go away. It never does for the ones who are chosen. You see, there's a mark on your soul, a spiritual scar, invisible to the world but known in heaven. That mark isn't proof that you're perfect, it's proof that you've endured. You've been through the fire, you've stood in silence while others were seen. You've stayed soft even when life tried to make you hard. And if any of that sounds like you, then you're not just someone watching a video. You are someone God has sealed. And the ones He seals, He sends. I know you've felt it before. The tension of being awake in a world that's asleep. The loneliness of being deep in a world that lives on the surface. The ache of being a soul that can't forget God, no matter how far you've wandered. You've tried to bury it under distraction, under responsibility, under survival, but it keeps rising. That inner fire, that inner ache, that whisper that says, you're different, you're marked, you're chosen. Now I'll ask you something serious. You have a choice right now. You can click away, go back to the noise, the scrolling, the distraction, and lose the clarity your soul's been crying for. Or you can stay until the end. Stay and receive the words that were meant to confirm what your spirit already knows. And if you do, you'll walk away lighter, stronger, remembering. If you've ever felt forgotten by destiny, this message is for you. If you've asked God why your life has taken so long to unfold, if you've cried quietly wondering if He passed you by, this message is your answer. Not a flashy one, a sacred one. The kind that sinks deep, the kind that reminds you that delay is not denial, the kind that awakens your memory of what you carry and why it's been so heavy. Because some burdens are not punishments, they are callings in disguise. Drop a 111 in the comments if your soul already feels this truth stirring. Drop a 777 if you know this message found you in the divine moment. This isn't for everyone, but if it's for you, you'll feel it in your bones. Let me show you something. In Revelation 7:3, the angel cries out, "Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God." That seal isn't something man gives. It's something God places quietly, invisibly, but unmistakably. And that seal has a weight. It makes you see differently, walk differently, love differently. You can't fake it. You can't earn it. But when you have it, you know. So if you've ever wondered why you didn't fit, why you couldn't settle, why everything normal felt strange, maybe it's because you were never meant to belong to the world. Maybe it's because you've been sealed for something higher. Whenever the world gets too heavy, this space is here. Come back to rest your soul. Now, let me show you what the mark really is. Let's begin. Tell me, have you ever wondered why your life was never ordinary? Why even when you tried to blend in, something inside of you stayed set apart? It wasn't ego. It wasn't pride. It was the mark. Not a mark made by man, not something stamped on your skin or shouted from a stage, but something placed in the quiet chambers of your soul, the seal of God. You were sealed, not for fame, not for applause, but for divine service. And that kind of service is holy, hidden and heavy. The world doesn't recognize it. In fact, it often rejects it, because the seal is not visible to human eyes. It cannot be proven by resumes or riches. It's a spiritual signature, God saying, "This one is mine." In Revelation 7:2-3, it says, "And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice, saying, Hurt not the earth, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads." That seal isn't placed on everyone. It's not random, it's reserved for those who were chosen from the beginning. And while others chase platforms, you've been in a process that made no sense on the surface. Delayed, hidden, pressed, questioned. But now you're starting to see you weren't being punished. You were being marked. The mark of God is not like the titles the world gives. It doesn't mean everything becomes easier. It means your walk becomes holier. It means you become sensitive to things others ignore. You feel heaviness in rooms no one else notices. You discern deception even in spiritual spaces. You cry when no one sees because your soul knows what it carries. That's what the seal does. It awakens you. It separates you. You were never meant to blend in. That ache you carry, the pain you've endured, the isolation you've suffered, it wasn't meaningless. It was the chiseling of God's mark into your soul. That's why certain places couldn't hold you. That's why certain relationships had to fall apart, because the seal of the Lord does not sit on the same foundation as the systems of the world. When he places his name on you, he starts to remove everything that contradicts his nature in you. You see, when God seals someone, he doesn't start with a platform. He starts with a wilderness. Look at Moses. Before he ever stood before Pharaoh, he stood alone on the backside of the desert. Look at David, anointed in private, forgotten in the fields. Look at Jesus. Even he was led by the Spirit into the wilderness before the miracles began. So what makes you think your hiddenness was failure? Maybe it was God being consistent with his pattern. The divine seal is also a kind of protection. You've been through things that should have destroyed you. Times you didn't know how you made it out. And yet, here you are. Because the seal of God doesn't just mark you, it shields you. Isaiah 43:1 says, "Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine." When God claims you, he keeps you. Not always from the fire, but through it. Not always from the storm, but in it. So if your life has felt like a delay, a divine pause, a confusing detour, know this: God has been preparing you, sealing you, teaching you to hear his voice when it's quiet, training you to trust him when nothing makes sense. That's not the journey of the forgotten, that's the journey of the chosen. And you, beloved, have been chosen. Not because you were qualified, but because you were willing to be emptied, willing to be overlooked, willing to lose what others chase so you could carry what others cannot. That's the mark. That's what the 144,000 symbolize. Not a literal number to brag about, but a symbolic company of souls who walk differently because they carry something eternal. But let me be clear, this mark doesn't make you better. It makes you accountable. When you carry the seal, you carry his name. And when you carry his name, your life no longer belongs to you. Your desires, your timing, your comfort, they are surrendered to something far more sacred. This is why you can't do what everyone else does, why you feel convicted faster, why your peace gets disturbed when you step out of alignment. It's not guilt, it's the seal, reminding you who you are. You may not have realized it before, but the warfare you've faced wasn't random. The enemy doesn't attack what isn't a threat. And you, with all your silent prayers, your hidden tears, your unnoticed sacrifices, you are a threat to the kingdom of darkness. Because sealed souls carry divine authority. They walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere, not with volume, but with presence. You've walked through things silently that would have crushed others. You've carried burdens without recognition. And now, heaven is whispering, you were never alone. You were being marked. The seal of God may not change your circumstances overnight, but it will change how you walk through them. It will give you vision in the dark, strength in the waiting, peace that makes no sense. Because when you know you've been sealed, you stop begging for doors and start discerning your assignment. You stop chasing affirmation and start standing in authority. This is the beginning of the unveiling. You're not just someone trying to find God. You are someone God has already found, already called, already sealed. Let the world overlook you. Let them misunderstand your path. The ones with the seal never needed permission to be chosen. They were chosen before the foundation of the world. And if you're still watching, still listening, still breathing in every word like it's oxygen for your spirit, then maybe you've known it all along. You don't need to be seen by the world. You've been seen by God. Let me show you something real, something sacred that no one ever told you plainly. One of the earliest signs that you were marked by God was how the world responded to you, or rather, how it didn't. From childhood, you sensed things others didn't. You spoke with depth they called too much. You loved with a purity they couldn't match. You walked through rooms feeling like a stranger in your own story. And if you tried to explain it, they stared back at you blankly or worse, laughed. That wasn't rejection. That was revelation. It was a holy clue that you didn't belong to the world system because you were never sent to blend in. You were sent to awaken. You see, the chosen ones have always carried that ache, that sense of being different, not better, not arrogant, just not at home here. Like something about the world felt fake, too loud, too shallow. And no matter how hard you tried to settle into its rhythms, you couldn't unsee what your soul knew to be true. You weren't designed for the crowd. You were designed for the call. Look at the pattern. Joseph dreamed dreams his family couldn't handle. His own brothers plotted against him, not because he was evil, but because he carried something too divine to be explained. David was anointed to be king, yet left tending sheep while his brothers stood before Samuel. Why? Because men look on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. And even Jesus, pure, blameless, full of love, was hated by the very ones he came to save. He was despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. Isaiah 53:3. So what makes you think your pain was unusual? It wasn't. It was prophetic. If they didn't recognize the Christ, why would they recognize those who carry his spirit? This is what no one warned you about. That being chosen feels more like loneliness than elevation. That being set apart feels more like exile than celebration. But don't let the isolation lie to you. You were never being cast aside. You were being carved out. The world's rejection was heaven's redirection. God was separating you, not to punish you, but to preserve you. To keep your spirit tender when the world turned cold. To keep your ears open when everyone else grew deaf to truth. To keep you from selling your soul for applause that fades. Have you noticed how every time you tried to follow the crowd, your peace disappeared? That wasn't you being dramatic. That was the seal of God calling you back. You couldn't betray your nature, even when you wanted to. And that's because your soul was already spoken for. You were already claimed. That's why relationships didn't last when they were built on the flesh. Why jobs drained you when they lacked purpose. Why certain rooms made you feel spiritually suffocated. You tried to shrink, to dim your light, to fit into spaces God never called you to enter. But your spirit wouldn't let you. That, beloved, was the first sign. You were never random, never forgotten. You were hidden. Hidden not because you were unworthy, but because you were holy. And holy things are never rushed. They are concealed until the time is right. It says in John 15:19, "If ye were of the world would love his own, but because ye are not of the world, therefore the world hateth you." That's not a curse. That's a confirmation. You don't belong to the world's design. You belong to a different kingdom. And kingdoms have markings. You carry the mark. So when they overlooked you, it wasn't failure. When they walked away, it wasn't loss. When they said you were too intense, too spiritual, too serious, they were just naming the parts of you that were already sealed. You were misunderstood because you were marked. You see, the first sign isn't applause, it's alienation. The first sign isn't comfort, it's confusion. Because when God sets you apart, He removes the mirrors that used to validate you, not to leave you empty, but to show you your reflection in Him alone. Don't be ashamed of the pain. Don't hide the loneliness. Don't water down your spirit to be more digestible to a world that never had the eyes to see you. You're not too much. You're just enough for a mission most won't understand. You don't need everyone to get it. You just need to stay aligned with the one who called you, because His eyes have always been on you, even when no one else was watching. And if you've been asking, why me? Maybe the better question is, why not me? If the rejection was the first sign, then the calling was always in motion. You just didn't see it yet, but you will. You're already beginning to. And this is only the beginning. You've cried more than you admit, not always the loud kind of crying, but the quiet ache that lives in your bones, the type of sorrow that sits behind your smile. That's not weakness. That's where the seal was pressed. Because for the chosen ones, the pain isn't random, it's holy. It's the chisel God uses to mark the soul. You were not punished, you were prepared. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every door that slammed shut, it all left a wound. But that wound didn't destroy you. It became a doorway, a sacred entry point for God's glory. And it hurt, yes. But the pain carved space for the light to live. You didn't just survive what tried to break you, you were transformed by it. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit." That verse was not written for the strong who never weep. It was written for you, the one who wept and worshipped in the same breath, the one who didn't run from the fire, but walked through it with trembling hands, refusing to curse God, even when you didn't understand. Tell me, do you realize how rare that is? You could have shut down. You could have gone numb. But something in you chose to stay open, even while bleeding. That's the evidence, the proof. That's how we know you were sealed. Because people who are merely strong harden. But people who are called soften, even in sorrow. They cry, but they don't curse. They break, but they still believe. The enemy wanted your wound to become your identity. He wanted your shame to bury your voice. He whispered lies. You're too broken to be used, too damaged to be chosen. But the wound itself was proof you were already chosen. You were targeted because you're marked. And what the enemy used to break you, God is using to build you. Isaiah 61:3 speaks of giving beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. God doesn't ignore the pain of the chosen. He repurposes it. He makes it oil, anointing, power. Not in spite of your wound, but because of it. This is why you feel things so deeply, why your compassion runs wild when others grow cold, why you're drawn to the broken, the outcast, the lost, because your wound gave you sight. Not natural sight, spiritual sight. You don't just look at people, you see their soul. You recognize the ache in others because you've carried it yourself. And that is why your voice has weight. There is no anointing without suffering. There is no authority without wounds. Even Jesus showed Thomas the marks in his hands. He didn't hide the holes. He revealed them. Reach hither thy finger and behold my hands. John 20:27. Why? Because the wounds were the proof of his resurrection. And your wounds are proof too, not of defeat but of divine preservation. You didn't die there. You were reborn there. Don't be ashamed of your scars. Don't hide what God uses to heal others. Your story isn't too messy. Your past isn't too dark. The enemy knows what you carry. That's why he fought so hard to bury it in grief. But today, the light is returning. Slowly, gently, powerfully. And it's coming through the cracks. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are right on time for the revealing of what was always sacred inside of you. So let the world call it weakness. Heaven calls it preparation. Let them say you're too emotional. God says you're deeply sensitive for a reason. That wound, that was the place God touched first. That pain, that was the altar. That breaking, that was where the oil began to flow. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You've already been proven in silence. You've already been trusted with pain so that you can be trusted with power. The light is in you now, and it's ready to rise. Let me speak plainly to your soul. There are signs, not signs the world celebrates, but signs heaven recognizes. When God marks someone, he leaves clues in their life, not loud ones, not showy, but consistent, quiet, deep. If you've been carrying the mark, your life has been echoing it for years. The first sign is the inner knowing, not pride, not delusion, just a knowing. Even when you were young, you felt set apart. You didn't have the words, but you felt the pull, like something unseen was shaping your path, like you were waiting for an instruction you hadn't yet received. That stillness inside you, that waiting, is sacred. That's not confusion, that's consecration. The second sign is your intolerance for the fake. You've never been able to sit in deception without feeling sick inside. Something in you resists anything that pretends to be light, but is powered by ego. You've seen through false smiles, spiritual manipulation, surface-level religion. It's not because you're critical, it's because your spirit has been trained to discern. That's a mark. The third sign is your rejection. The rooms you were never invited into, the people who couldn't stay, the opportunities that disappeared without warning. Every time you tried to build your life like others did, it slipped through your fingers, not because you were cursed, but because you were claimed. The world didn't make space for you because heaven already had. That's the mark. The fourth sign is your compassion. People come to you. They open their pain, even when you didn't ask. You carry the burdens of others like sacred cargo. You feel their sorrow before they speak it. That sensitivity has cost you sleep, energy, peace, but you never turn it off. Why? Because the mark made you a vessel, a sacred place for healing. It hurts sometimes, but you were built for it. The fifth sign is your inability to compromise. You tried, didn't you? You tried to live like everyone else, to chase success, validation, safety. But every time you stepped outside your alignment, your peace vanished. It's not that you didn't want to fit in, you just couldn't. The cost was too high. Your conscience wouldn't let you settle. That's the mark. The sixth sign is divine interruption. Just when life starts to look normal, something shifts. A storm hits. A door closes. A voice calls you back to silence. Over and over you felt pulled away, not because you failed, but because your path cannot be dictated by patterns. You are being led, not pushed. The seventh sign is your burden for truth. You ache when truth is misused. You weep when the gospel is sold. You hunger for purity in a world that distorts God. That hunger, that ache, that is holy. That is the cry of those who are sealed. Ezekiel 9:4 says, "Set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done." This was never about being loud. It was about being burdened by what burdens God. You might think your life has been chaotic, full of broken chapters, but look again. Every detour was divine. Every delay was design. Every loss carved a deeper well. And that well, it holds glory now. Many of you carry this mark in midlife. That's no coincidence, because God often waits until the noise has died down. until the ego has failed, until the soul is ready to surrender. Some of you are just now awakening to the call, not because you were late, but because this is your appointed time. Your midlife spiritual awakening is not a breakdown, it's a birthing. You may feel behind, like too many years have been lost, but the Lord restores time. Joel 2:25 says, I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten. The mark was there all along, but now the light is shining on it. Now the weight of what you carry is beginning to make sense. This is why your past was so painful, why your emotions have been so intense, why you've often felt like a contradiction, gentle yet fierce, tired yet resilient, unseen yet always watched by heaven. The 144,000 are not just a number, they are a mirror. They reflect the ones who stayed loyal to the Lamb even in silence. Revelation 14:4 says, These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. In their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. That purity, that allegiance, it lives in you not because you're perfect, but because you kept returning when others walked away. There are others like you, scattered across the world, waking up in the middle of the night with tears and questions, seeing signs, feeling shifts, hearing whispers in the spirit that don't make sense yet. You're not imagining it. You're not alone. The mark is being revealed now, not for status, but for assignment. And you, if you feel the confirmation burning in your chest, are not watching this by chance. You were meant to. Because now you need to recognize what you've carried all along. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are marked. You are sealed. You are sent. Let me be honest with you. In a world that confuses spotlight with spirit and fame with favor, many are chasing a mark they do not carry. Many want the crown, but not the crushing. They want the mantle, but not the silence. They want to be called chosen, but without being broken. That's not the real mark. You see, the seal of God is not something you earn by shouting the loudest or collecting the most followers. It's not something you wear like a badge to prove you're better than others. The mark is not a status symbol. It's a spiritual surrender. It cannot be faked, and it cannot be bought. It is branded through suffering, obedience, and alignment. The mark does not make you untouchable. It makes you tender. It does not make you proud, it makes you pure. The moment someone uses the title Chosen One to elevate themselves above others, they reveal that they were never truly marked. Because those who are sealed by God walk low. They walk soft. They walk hidden until God decides to reveal them. The world may applaud gifting, charisma, and knowledge, but heaven looks at posture. The sealed ones don't boast. They burn, quietly, unseen, steady. They carry the pain of intercession. They carry the weight of divine grief. They don't chase titles. They tremble before the throne. Let me remind you what the word says. Many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 22:14. That means many will hear the invitation, many will even try to walk the path, but only a few will surrender deeply enough to carry the mark. And surrender is the key, not appearance, not effort, not imitation. The real mark will not make you loud, it will make you loyal. Loyal to God when no one claps for you, loyal in obscurity, loyal in correction, loyal in delay. Loyal even when your name is forgotten by man, because you know it has been written by God. So if you've ever looked around and thought, why do others get so much attention while I stay invisible? Let me comfort you with the truth. The seal is not for show, it's for substance. The mark of God is a quiet authority. You won't always be seen, but you'll always carry presence. And presence can't be faked. This is also why some who seem spiritual on the outside feel hollow when they speak. There's no oil, no weight. Because the mark isn't about saying the right words, it's about living the surrendered life. Those who are sealed leak light, even in silence. You can feel it. You don't need to be told they're anointed. You sense it. That's the mark. And this is why you've struggled in environments that reward performance. Your spirit can't tolerate pretending. You don't know how to fake joy. You don't know how to clap for things that grieve the heart of God. That's not rebellion. That's reverence. That's a sign the mark is real. Don't let the enemy twist your humility into self-doubt. Don't let religious spaces convince you that you need a platform to be powerful. You don't. You just need presence. And if God sealed you, then you carry it, even if no one else affirms it. You were never called to look like everyone else. You were called to resemble the Lamb, and He, gentle, meek, lowly, was the most powerful of all. He didn't chase crowds. He walked away from them. He didn't demand worship. He walked with the broken. That's the model. That's the mark. So be at peace. If you don't fit the mold, good. If you don't speak like others, fine. If your walk is quieter, deeper, more hidden, that's not a mistake. That's evidence. The true mark was never about imitation. It was about intimacy. And if you've got that, you've got everything. You don't wake up to your calling in a crowd. You wake up in a desert, alone, unseen, uncertain. The wilderness is not where you were forgotten. It's where you were awakened. And if life has felt silent lately, if you've been walking through a stretch of time where nothing seems to move, where prayers echo back empty, where every path seems blocked, it's not because you're off track. It's because you're on holy ground. The wilderness is God's classroom for the chosen. It's where He removes the noise, the distractions, the counterfeit affirmations. It's where He teaches your spirit to hear Him, not through thunder, but through the still small voice. And that voice, quiet as it is, can uproot every lie you ever believed. When God is about to trust someone with weight, He strips them first. He empties them of applause, of ambition, of ego, not to punish, but to purify. He lets everything fall away so that only the soul remains, only the eternal, only what can carry the assignment. Look through the Word. Moses wasn't called in Pharaoh's palace. He was called in exile, watching sheep on the far side of the desert. John the Baptist didn't rise in the temple courts. He came crying from the wilderness. Even Jesus, before one miracle ever happened, was led into the wilderness by the Spirit. 40 days, no crowd, no comfort, just silence, temptation, and the voice of the Father. So if you're there now, standing in the wilderness, wondering if you missed it, hear this. You didn't miss it. You're in it. That ache you feel, that restlessness, that low-grade grief that follows you into every room. It's not depression. It's divine discontent. It's your soul refusing to settle for what's beneath your calling. That's not a flaw. That's the mark. You were never meant to build in the shallow waters. You were meant to wait until the Spirit moved, to stay in the wilderness until the whisper becomes instruction. You are not lazy. You are not forgotten. You are becoming. Isaiah 43 declares, "The voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God." Did you hear that? The way of the Lord begins in the wilderness, not after the wilderness, not around it, in it. This is where God rewrites your identity, where He unhooks your worth from what you do and anchors it in who you are, where He removes the labels others gave you and seals you with His own, where He reveals that you were never called to hustle for purpose, but to hear it. And the longer you stay in the wilderness, the more your eyes open. You start to see why things didn't work out, why certain people had to leave, why certain doors stayed closed. You begin to realize that delay was not a curse, it was divine preservation. The wilderness is not empty. It's full of the sacred, the burning bush, the angel's whisper, the manna you didn't expect, the rock that gives water. All of it is hidden in dry places, but only the marked ones stay long enough to find it. You've been stretched, weary, questioning, but you've also been faithful, quietly, steadily. And that's what matters. Not how loud your faith is, but how deep. Not how perfect your prayers are, but how honest. When the wilderness is over, it won't be because you escaped it. It will be because it finished its work in you. And then, just like that, the Spirit will lead you forward, not into ease, but into purpose, not into comfort, but into calling. You won't need the world to understand it. You'll know, you'll feel it in your bones. The wilderness didn't destroy you, it awakened you. Let me tell you something few will dare to say. This mark can't be faked. It doesn't come through performance. It doesn't arrive through repetition. And it certainly can't be copied. The seal of God is placed by Him alone, through fire, through silence, through surrender. You can't buy your way into it. You can't impress your way into it. And the ones who try always reveal themselves in time. The mark is not charisma. It's not eloquence. It's not the ability to move a crowd. Those are human gifts. But the seal is divine. It's not felt in noise. It's felt in presence. When someone truly carries the mark, you feel the weight of God on their life. Not because they say the right things, but because they carry something. And that something breaks chains quietly, heals wounds invisibly, shifts atmospheres without fanfare. This is why you can sit under a message that has all the right words but still feel empty, because the anointing isn't in the script, it's in the soul. The word tells us in 2 Timothy 3:5, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away. There are many who look the part but lack the seal. They mimic the movements but miss the spirit. And maybe you've felt that. Maybe you've been in spaces that were full of noise, full of lights, full of excitement. But your soul stayed hungry. That wasn't judgment. That was discernment. You can't feed on imitation. You were created to respond to the real. The real doesn't need to shout. The real doesn't need to prove. The mark of God doesn't have to announce itself. It reveals itself slowly, through fruit, through consistency, through humility. And the ones who carry it, they don't even try to be noticed. In fact, they often run from it, because they know the cost. That's how you know the difference. The false seeks attention, the marked seek obedience. The false try to manipulate God's presence. The marked host it, not for show, for surrender. So, if you've ever looked at others and felt inadequate, stop now. You don't need to copy anyone. What God placed in you is original, and it's enough. If He marked you, no one can unmark you. If He sealed you, no platform or person can deny you. The evidence will speak when the time is right. You were not called to be impressive. You were called to be authentic. And the mark of God is the deepest authenticity of all. This part may be hard to hear, but it needs to be said. Not everyone carries the mark, and not everyone who claims to be chosen was truly sent. There are those who speak in God's name, but were never sealed by His Spirit. There are those who move in spiritual language, but carry no weight, no presence, no authority, only noise. You see, the mark is not just about what you say. It's about who you belong to. The ones without the mark can build platforms, stir crowds, and even speak about God, but their fruits eventually reveal the absence of divine alignment. Jesus said it plainly in Matthew 7:22-23. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, and then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me. They had the words, but not the relationship. They had the form, but not the seal. You were never meant to fear these people, but you were called to discern them. Because when the marked rise, the counterfeit always tries to mimic, and if your soul isn't anchored, you'll start to question your own calling. But remember, the loudest voice is not always the truest one. The brightest light is not always the purest. Those without the mark often seek to control, to compete, to manipulate. They build kingdoms around their name, not His. And when they see someone truly carrying the mark, they feel threatened. Because what's born of God exposes what's born of performance. This is why some of you have been attacked for no reason, silenced, misjudged, made to feel like you were the problem. But what was really happening was this. Your spirit made something in them uncomfortable. Because your presence carried a light they couldn't counterfeit. That light reveals. That light convicts. That light exposes the hollow sound of the unmarked. In the first epistle of John, chapter 2, verse 19, it says, "They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us." Don't mourn the ones who left when your spirit started growing. Don't grieve what God removed when He started sealing you. Some were never meant to walk with you past the point of your awakening. God is not looking for perfection. He's looking for possession. Has He marked your soul? Has He pierced your will? Has He claimed your walk? Those without the mark can go far in the eyes of man. But only those with the mark will stand before God and be recognized, not for what they did, but for who they were when no one else saw, for how they obeyed in secret, for how they burned with truth when the world chose comfort. Don't envy the unmarked. Don't fear the counterfeit. Just stay faithful. The sealed are known in heaven and feared in hell. You were not marked just to survive. You were marked to be sent. The 144,000 are not chosen for status. They are chosen for a mission, a holy assignment, a sacred responsibility. They carry something weighty, not to lift themselves up, but to lift others out. Revelation 14:4 says, "These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb." This is not about prestige. It is about loyalty, purity, sacrifice. These souls carry the fragrance of heaven on them because they've walked through the crushing. They follow the Lamb, not just in glory, but in grief, in loss, in silence, in surrender. If you are truly marked, you've already been through more than most know. And now, heaven is awakening you to the reason. You were not broken just to be healed. You were broken so you could heal others. You were not rejected just to cry. You were rejected so you could recognize the rejected ones and call them home. The mission of the 144,000 is not to impress the world. It is to interrupt it with light, with truth, with presence. You were called to stand in places others run from, to speak when the air is thick with fear, to sing when the night is long, to carry a word from God when everyone else has gone silent. And make no mistake, this mission is costly. You will not be understood. You will be mocked. You will be tempted to stay quiet, to fit in, to pretend you didn't hear what God whispered. But the sealed can't stay hidden forever. When the time comes, God reveals His own. And when He sends you, He also equips you with grace, with protection, with presence. Some of you are just now beginning to feel this call rise again. For years, you tried to silence it. You thought it was too late. You thought you missed your window. But God is saying, now. Not when you feel ready. Not when everything is figured out, now. Because the world needs the marked ones to step forward. You see, the earth is shaking. Systems are falling. The old ways are collapsing. And what is needed now are souls who carry light that doesn't flicker, faith that doesn't collapse, and love that doesn't bend under pressure. The 144,000 are not here to compete. They are here to build, to plant new altars, to tear down false ones, to restore what was lost. You are one of them. That's why you couldn't settle. That's why you couldn't give up, even when it felt pointless. That's why, after all the pain, something in you still burns. That's not willpower. That's the seal. The mission is simple. Follow the Lamb wherever He goes, no matter the cost, no matter the terrain, no matter the loneliness. Follow. And in doing so, you'll lead others home. So rise. Not with striving, but with surrender. Not with noise, but with knowing. Your voice may tremble, your steps may be slow, but if you've been marked, you've been sent. And the time is now. You are not late. You are right on time, for the mission you were born to carry. This question has lived in your spirit for years, hasn't it? A quiet wondering, a sacred whisper. Am I really one of them? Am I one of the 144,000? You didn't ask because you wanted to feel special. You asked because your soul remembers something your mind still can't explain. And now the question rises again, not from ego, but from hunger. You want to know. But let me tell you gently, this knowing doesn't come from external signs. It comes from a deep internal confirmation, a holy resonance, a moment of stillness where everything inside you says, yes, this is it, this is me. It's not about visions or titles or supernatural events. It's about alignment, a life that keeps circling back to surrender, no matter how far it drifts, a heart that remains soft in a world gone hard, a spirit that won't trade truth for comfort. You see, if you were one of them, you wouldn't be able to run from this. You could try, sure, you could ignore the call, drown it in work or noise, but it always comes back, in the night, in the silence, in the ache that refuses to die. Because the seal on your life is not just a promise, it's a pull. It draws you back, every time. Jesus said in John 10:27, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." That's the mark. You hear him, even when you doubt, even when you question, even when the world calls it foolish. You hear and you follow, not perfectly, but faithfully. And that faithfulness is what God sees. So how do you know? You know when the messages like this don't feel like information, they feel like reminders. You know when your heart starts pounding as if someone is reading your soul out loud. You know when you start crying and you don't even know why. That's not emotion, that's recognition. The truth is, if you're watching this, still here, still breathing in every word like oxygen, it's not a coincidence. People without the mark don't linger in this kind of message. They click away. They get bored. But you stayed. You stayed because your spirit knew this was your confirmation. You don't need lightning to strike. You don't need someone to lay hands on you. If your soul has been burning while listening, you already know. And if you don't know yet, stay with God. Ask Him. Seek Him. His voice is faithful, and He will not withhold from you what your heart is ready to receive. And when you know, stand firm. You don't need to convince anyone. The marked don't seek validation. They move in obedience, quiet, bold, steady, sealed. So go ahead, sit with this, let it sink in. And if your heart still says yes, then you don't need to question anymore. You're one of them, you always were. Come close now, let your spirit breathe. You've walked through every chapter, every word, every whisper from heaven in this message, and something in you has shifted. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it feels like a remembering more than a revelation. That's what happens when a sealed soul hears the truth. It doesn't shock, it awakens. You've been waiting for something, a word, a sign, a moment. And maybe, just maybe, this was it. Not because of how the message was delivered, but because of how your soul responded. The mark was always there, hidden beneath the survival, the heartbreak, the silence. But now, you see it, you feel it, you know. Let the world say what it wants. Let others question your path. Let them misunderstand your silence and misread your depth. They didn't mark you, so they don't get to define you. Only the one who sealed you has the final say, and He calls you chosen, claimed, His. If you made it this far, that alone speaks volumes. The unmarked turn away, the shallow scroll past. But you stayed, you felt the fire, you let it burn away the confusion. And now, what's left is truth. So here's what you do next. You live marked. You move like someone who carries heaven's presence. You speak with weight. You love with purity. You obey when no one sees. You walk quietly but carry thunder. And when you doubt, because you will, you return here. Not to the video, but to the truth. The truth that God doesn't call the perfect. He calls the willing. He doesn't look for titles. He looks for hearts. Drop a 111 in the comments if your spirit was confirmed. Drop a 777 if this message awakened something ancient in you, not for numbers, but as a sacred echo, a silent roll call of the sealed. You are not alone. The others are watching too, quiet, hidden, holy, just like you. And whenever the world gets too heavy, this space is here. Come back to rest your soul. This wasn't just a message, it was a mantle. You've been reminded, you've been affirmed, you've been released. Go now, not to perform, not to impress. Go to follow the Lamb wherever he leads.